The Mission Society of the Philippines, or MSP, was founded in 1965 by the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, or the CBCP, to become the official missionary arm of the Philippine Catholic Church as an act of gratitude to God for the gift of faith. It is a society of apostolic life of pontifical right for mission ad gentes, a response to the call of Pope John Paul II when he said, "It is my hope that the Filipino people will be in the forefront of missionary work in Asia." In Taiwan, there are 7 Phil Mission Fathers working in 3 dioceses. The Phil Missioners are living a life of faithful service to the Lord and His Church, a community of joyful missionary spirit, willing to spend and be spent for the gospel. Our mission is to help build and nurture a young church in Taiwan, attain its full maturity in faith, and sustain it with the sacrament of love which God has entrusted to His church. To bring the people to the knowledge of God, to minister to the sick, the old, and the dying, to build a community of believers and make them an evangelizers in their own little way. The MSP also engages in the pastoral care of welcome for the seafarers who visit Taiwan, to protect the dignity of labor and defend the rights of the migrant workers, to accompany the aborigines in the pursuit of happiness and self-determination, to help the young adapt to the culture of love, to share the beauty of our religious and cultural traditions, to work with the government and civil societies for socio-cultural and religious advancements. As the official missionary arm of the Philippine Catholic Church, the MSP is survived through the generosity of the Filipinos. As we celebrate the Phil Mission Sunday, Filipinos throughout the world are being reminded of the missionary obligation to help the work of missions through their prayers and sacrifices, to become missionaries themselves, and to support the work of evangelization through material offerings. In doing so, Filipinos are living out in their lives the mission of the Church. Your material offerings will help the MSP help those who are in pursuit of happiness for eternity.
Has risen in our midst. God has visited His people.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus went across the Sea of Galilee. A large crowd followed him because they saw the signs he was performing on the sea. Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. The Jewish feast of Passover was near. When Jesus raised his eyes and saw that a large crowd was coming to him, he said to Philip, "Where can we buy enough food for them to eat?" He said this to test him, because he himself knew what he was going to do. Philip answered him, 200 days' wages worth of food would not be enough for each of them to have a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good are these for so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people recline." Now there was a great deal of grass in that place, so the men reclined, about 5,000 in number. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed them to those who were reclining, and also as much of the fish as they wanted. When they had had their fill, he said to his disciples, "Gather the fragments left over, so that nothing will be wasted." So they collected them and filled 12 wicker baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves, and had been more than they could eat. When the people saw the sign he had done, they said, "This is truly the prophet, the one who is to come into the world." Since Jesus knew that they were going to come and carry him off to make him king, he withdrew again to the mountain alone. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise you, Lord. Please be seated. Good morning, everyone. In the previous Sundays, we heard about Jesus sending his disciples for a missionary work. And last Sunday, we heard that the disciples returned to Jesus and reported everything they had done. And Jesus told them to go to a deserted place and rest for a while. Now, beloved friends, resting for a while was the moment for the disciples and the apostles to process their knowledge, their experiences in the missionary work. Now today, another lessons that Jesus gave to his disciples about the multiplication of the loaves. Today also, beloved friends, the Philippine Church celebrates the Field Mission Sunday, the Filipino Mission Sunday, in order to thank God for the gift of faith that the Filipino people received, starting in 1521, when the first Christian was baptized and the missionary work in the Philippines was cut off because Fernando de Magallanes was killed there. And during the time, it was also in 1521, the time that Hernan Cortes arrived in Mexico, in Tenochtitlan, no? In 1521, you remember that. But fortunately, Hernan Cortes defeated the Aztec and continued the colonization of Tenochtitlan and changed the name into Mexico. So, and of course, together with him were the missionaries. But in the Philippines, when the Spaniards arrived in 1521, there was a gap because, as I said, Magellan was killed there. So there was no missionary activity for 45 years until in 1565 when Miguel Lopez de Legazpi arrived in the Philippines, coming from Barra de Navidad in New Spain, and that is now presently the state of Jalisco. So, who evangelized the Philippines? The Spanish? No, the Spanish-Mexican. So, who evangelized the Philippines? We were colonized and under the power of Spain. Colonization. Under the power of Spain. That's political side. But for the religious side, from Mexico, because in February 3, 1579, Pope Gregory XIII declared that the Philippine Church is the suffragan of the Archdiocese of Mexico. So, our faith came from Mexico. until we fully liberated from Spain in 1898. So now we are thankful for the gift of faith that we receive. That's why the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines organized the Mission Society of the Philippines, in which that's the society that I belong, in 1965, because on that year, the Philippine Church celebrated the 400th anniversary of the official evangelization in the Philippines in 1565. Now, according to the mind of the bishops, it is high time for the Filipinos to go abroad, to share the gift of faith that we receive. In thanking God for the foreign missionaries who arrived in our land to evangelize the Filipinos. And now, Philippines is the dominant Christian country in Asia. So, whole of Asia, the Philippine is the Christian country. So we are thankful for the missionaries. Now, the Mission Society of the Philippines was organized, and we sent missionaries abroad. First in Asia, and to the world, and here in the United States, particularly in St. James the Less Church, Paris. So 2 of us are serving here as a sign of gratitude, because this parish is 85% Hispanic and mostly Mexican. So this is also a right time for us, Filipino missionaries, to thank you for the gift of faith that you brought to the Philippines, to thank the Hispanic people. And unfortunately, in 1898, when after the Spain and American War, and there was a Treaty of Paris, so the Spanish left the Philippines and Americans took over. That's why we, the new generation, cannot speak Spanish. So only our old people can speak Spanish. But our prayers or our language has so many Spanish words there. That's why if the Mexican asks, why is it that the Filipinos have Spanish names? Of course, that 500 soldiers brought by Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, they gave us their family names. So we have Spanish names, except my apellido. I don't know where it came from. Napier. They said that it came from France. Napier. So, beloved friends, we have the second collection today to help the mission of the MSP. Just like in the first reading, Elisha in Spanish, Eliseo, Profeta Eliseo in Spanish. Elisha did a miracle to provide food to the people. As one person offered food to him, and he said, give that to the people. How can I give this to the thousands of people? But just give it. And there was the multiplication of that food. Now, today, we hear Jesus also multiplied the bread. And where that bread coming from? Coming from an innocent boy. Innocent boy has 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. So, if that boy had his provision, all those people there maybe brought their own provision. When the people saw the generosity of the boy, the people there started to share what they brought in order for everybody to eat. Now, like the apostles, when Jesus told Philip, give them something to eat, where can we do? Where can we get the money? 100 days of wages, not enough. Now, like us, missionaries, we go abroad, we go to different places doing projects for the people, as you have seen in the video before. We have nothing, but who help us? The people who believe in the work of mission. This is your sharing, because not all will go to the mission land. There are people chosen to go to the mission land. Your participation is to support the mission of the church through your prayers, sacrifices, as well as to your material offerings. So be generous, and so that we can go on and move on with our mission. One of our priests died yesterday from heart attack, and he was about to leave for New Zealand on his new mission, but unfortunately he died. He's about to say Mass at the cathedral in Manila, so we pray for him. You know him, he was the former pastor in Hesperia Holy Family Church. So he died with heart attack. We don't know if it was triggered by COVID, because the post-mortem examination or swab test, he was seen as COVID positive. So we keep on praying for all our missionaries. God bless you.